Welcome back to the channel and to week 12 of the NFL, to another episode jam-packed full of free picks for you guys. Now here I've changed the format up on this show just a little bit, right? It was Trace pick 6 through the first 11 weeks of the season. I was picking my favorite 6 plays off of the slate, and we were diving into those, breaking them down and analyzing them. Sat back and thought about it last week, man. I was like, look, I get more than 6 picks every week, right? I end up finding more than 6 that I like. And I kind of condense it down to those favorite 6 that I find on the slate. We all know, man, our favorite plays don't always end up being our best plays, right? So I end up eliminating some plays and then they cash. And then I'm salty, right? So why are we doing that? All right, so I'm going to eliminate that whole pick 6 thing where I try to pick my favorite 6. We're just going to throw them all out here, guys. I'm going to break it down into sections. I'm going to go over money lines, I'm going to go over totals, spreads, parlays, and then my favorite section, I'm going to pick my favorite underdog off of the slate that I'm rolling with that week as well. And that's what we're going to do. We're just going to break it down by section, like I said, and pick our favorite plays out of those instead of limiting it to just 6 picks. That way, we're doubling, tripling our chances for profit, right? So that's what we're going to do moving forward. But before we dive into Week 12's picks, going to go over Week 11 and how that ended up going down. Now we've had better weeks, but we've also had worse weeks, man. Finished 3-3, so we don't make any money. We don't lose any money either, right? Just kind of break even last week. We are sitting at 38-28 with one push on the year, and we are sitting just up over 10 units still on the season. So like I said, man, nothing to cry about. We are still in the green, like I said, up over 10 units. But man, I have been kind of hovering around that 10 unit mark for the last few weeks, man. Win a little bit, lose a little bit, win a little bit, lose a little bit. And like I said, man, for the last like 3 or 4 weeks, just kind of been chilling right around 10 units. Your boy's trying to keep it going, man. Let's win a little bit and win a little bit and win a little bit. Let's get up over that 10 unit mark. So we're gonna try to do that here this week. Got a handful of picks to dive into here for week 12. So let's go ahead and jump over to Outlier. We're gonna get into our first play of the day. First play I'm gonna be looking at, we're gonna be going over money lines first. I'm looking at the Arizona Cardinals. If you slide over here to the Add My Pick screen here on Outlier, you can see where we can find this for the best price on which sports book. Right now, we're looking at Caesars, minus 105 for the best odds for the Cardinals on the money line. Now, if we go ahead and scroll on down, we can look at the Cardinals and the Seahawks here in 2024. Now, in the last 4 games, man, Cardinals are coming in on a 4-game winning streak. They've actually won 5 of their last 6. We look at the Seahawks, it's been a tale of a different story, man. They've won 2 of their last 6, right? So they're kind of coming into this one limping. Cardinals coming in with a little bit of momentum, right? Now, here's another curious thing that I found, right? You always think about playing in Seattle, man. They got the 12th man. It's always been a hard spot to play at. Cardinals coming to this one 500 on the road, man. 2-2 so far. Seahawks at home, 2-4, and they've actually lost 4 straight on the road or at home, excuse me. Um, you know, just not what you expect from the Seattle team at home, like I've said. Now, we do see this down here. The Cardinals are 4-8 in their last 12 games on the road, but that is dipping back into last season as well. So, not too concerned about that one. Looking at this matchup, though, one thing that I did find pretty interesting looking over things, the Cardinals have the second hardest strength of schedule so far. They are tied for second with the Jaguars, and they have still eked out a 6-4 record in that time span, right? Seahawks are sitting at 12th in terms of strength of schedule, so not like they've had an easy go themselves, but Cardinals tied for second, man. Like that's a tough schedule that they have played so far, and they have managed to go 6-4 through that. And like I said, 500 on the road coming into this one against a team that has been struggling at home. Now, if we look at the Cardinals, man, there's one discrepancy up here looking at the stats, right, that I really found interesting as well. They are fifth in terms of rushing yards. The Seahawks are 27th in terms of rushing defense. So definitely an area where Arizona can take advantage, and I just feel like they come in hot, man. They got the momentum, and the Seahawks are kind of just struggling, right? So I like the Cardinals on the money line here for this one for our first play of the day, and like I said, definitely at minus 105 as well. I like those odds. This one's kind of a pick 'em, right? Because you look at Seattle, man, they're minus 108. There's no plus money on this one, right? So the books are kind of throwing this one up in the air. I like the road team here in this one. Next up, I'm going to be looking at the Ravens and the Chargers, that Monday night game, and I'm looking at the Ravens on the money line. Now, this one is a little more juiced at minus 142, and this is not just me being salty as a Bengals fan, okay? Chargers got a damn good team over there, but I just feel like this is a spot for Baltimore, man. Coming off a tough loss to Pittsburgh on the road, um, kind of, I wouldn't say they're struggling, but 2-2 in their last 4. Um, Losing a little bit of pace in the division with the Steelers. They got some stuff to fight for here in this one. Now, obviously, the Chargers are fighting for a playoff spot themselves, right? But 4 wins in a row, and I hate to say this, man. I always hate judging a pick off of this one, but you got to feel like they're coming in. They got some momentum, right? But I hate saying it, they're due for a loss, man. And who better against this Baltimore team, man? I mean, Baltimore can score the lights out, and I know. Look, we scroll over here. Like I said, man, this is a solid Charger defense, man. This is a good team, first in scoring defense, right? But we're going up against it's gotta be we gotta consider this the best offense in the league this year, man. They're second in terms of scoring. They're just, top 5 in pretty much every damn category you look at, man. I mean, top 3 really. Look at this. Second in scoring. They're first in red zone efficiency. They're third in third down conversions. First and first in first downs. Third in passing yards. Second in rushing yards. First in yards per play. Tied for fourth for turnovers given up. Third in sacks allowed. Second in QB hits. Now, they are getting hurried quite a bit, but we got Lamar Jackson back there, man. So what's that matter, right? It hasn't formulated into sacks or QB hits, man. He gets away from it. So hurry him all day. It doesn't matter. He's going to find a hole. He's going to either escape and run down the field on you, or he's going to throw that ball up over your head. So I like this Baltimore offense. Normally, I'm always the guy that I'm like defense wins, right? Defense wins championships. And I feel like that reigns true, but there's times where there's an offense is just really damn good and they're in a spot where, like, feel like they need to get a win here, man. They don't wanna keep dropping these games. They're gonna what? They're 7-4, dropping to 7-5 and falling 2 games below Pittsburgh in the standings is not really ideal, as we creep into that, that late stretch here in the season, so, I think Baltimore turns up here, man. I like it for -142 as well, so I'm on the Baltimore Ravens money line for this one. Gonna go ahead and dive into some spreads now. I'm gonna be looking at the Kansas City Chiefs first. I'm looking at them at -11.5 over the Panthers. Now this line is sitting at 10.5, but I like this one at 11.5, guys, for plus money. Now it is a little bit risky, right? Sure does say scared money don't make money, so we're gonna live by that one here this week. We're gonna make a little bit of money, right? Because we ain't gonna be scared, man. Now, like I said, I do like this one here at 11.5 for a simple reason of the Panthers suck. I mean, there's just no other way to put it, man. This defense is horrible, man. Like, there's not many defenses that rank or look worse than my Bengals, right? But this one might take the cake. 32nd in terms of scoring, they're giving up an average of 31 points per game. Shitload. 24th in terms of passing yards given up, dead last in terms of rushing yards given up. They're dead last when it comes to getting after the quarterback. 32nd in QB hits, 31st in sacks, 31st in hurries, 32nd in terms of tackles for losses. Just across the board, just not a good defense. Dead last in third down conversion, 31st in first downs. And we're going up against a Kansas City Chief offense that still has Patrick Mahomes. We still have Travis Kelce. They've now added DeAndre Hopkins. Kareem Rush has not looked bad in his return back to the Chiefs. This 23rd rushing yard average, I'm not really sweating that when we're going up against the worst team in the league in terms of defending the run. So, like I said, man, we still got Patrick Mahomes back there, and this secondary hasn't been anything to write home about either. So, I think the Chiefs win in this one and they win big, man. 11.5. I almost like I'd be tempted to even push it up a little bit higher and get the odds even higher, man. But I don't want to get too crazy over here. Like I said, I do think that we are taking a little bit of a risk, as you are anytime you're putting any kind of plus money plays out there. But is what it is, right? Like I said, scare money don't make money, so we're gonna go ahead and roll with that one. Go ahead here and look down to strength of schedules, man. Chiefs are tied for 13th in terms of strength of schedule. Panthers sitting all the way down at 30th. Had one of the easier schedules in the league. The Chiefs are 9-1. The Panthers are 3-7. Right? Chiefs have been 4-1 on the road this year. That one loss coming against a damn good Buffalo Bill team. Panthers 2-3 at home. A lot of things are pointing in the Chiefs' direction here. And like I said, coming off of that loss to the Bills, that was last week that they did lose in Buffalo to the Bills by 9 points. So, I think you get a very, very motivated Chiefs team coming in against a Panthers team that just like really doesn't match up whatsoever. Chiefs roll here, man. This is going to be a double-digit victory easily. I could see them winning by multiple possessions, 2 touchdowns, maybe even 3. So I like this 11.5, man. Like I said, especially at plus money, we can get it at plus 100 right now over there at Bet365. Next up, I'm looking at the Lions on the spread against the Indianapolis Colts. Detroit minus 6.5. This is an alternate where I bought a point, right? Kind of funny after talking about scared money don't make money. Wouldn't say I'm scared in this one, but hey, not playing it as risky here, playing this one a little bit safer because this Indianapolis Colts team isn't horrible, man, and they are at home. Um, if we look at their schedule, right, they have covered this 6.5 spread plus 6.5 80% of the time so far this year. Now, granted, they have not played a team of Detroit's caliber, but they have played some solid squads, right? We look at them, they just came off a victory over the Jets. They won that one by one last minute, man. That was a hell of a game from Anthony Richardson coming back. So good victory that they're coming in off of on the road, coming back home now. They lost a good one to the Bills. They lose to the Vikings, another good team. They lost a close game to the Texans in Houston, another good team. They beat the Dolphins. They beat the Titans. They lose a close one in Jacksonville. They beat the Steelers, who have what the best defense in the NFL so far this year. You beat the Bears, not a bad team as well, and you lose a close one to the Packers. So, it's like every game that they lose, they're still in it. This has been a solid team so far this year. The Lions have been the best team so far this year, right? Just complete dominance at times. They are 7-1 right here. You can see against the spread in their last 8 games on the road as well. But just look at them this year, man. I mean, just straight dominance. They're coming off a 52-6 win against the Jaguars, the same team that beat this Colts team, right? Earlier in the season, we saw that 37-34. They beat the Colts. They just lost to these Lions 52-6, man. Detroit coming in on a what? Let's see, 8 game winning streak. So, chance for a letdown here, sure. Um, can the Colts pull out the upset? It's possible, man. It is, but I definitely still like Detroit in this one for a handful of reasons. This offense is spectacular. First in the league in terms of scoring, 33.5 points per game, going up against the 19th ranked scoring defense, right? They're second in first downs up against a 25th ranked team for first downs in defense, right? Sixth in terms of third down conversion up against the 23rd ranked Indianapolis Colt defense. Fourth in terms of red zone efficiency, 16th for the Colts. Man, just so on and so forth. You can just see advantages left and right. They're sixth in passing yards, they're third in rushing yards. The Colts are sitting at 26th and 28th, respectively. They're great about keeping that pressure away from Goff. They're seventh in terms of sacks allowed. Colts are only 20th in terms of sacks. So a lot of things playing in the favor of Detroit. Now, here's something that's interesting. The Colts have had a tough schedule, right? They're sitting at 10th in terms of strength of schedule. Lions only 21st. But the Colts are sitting at 5-6 overall this year. Lions 9-1, 5-0 on the road so far. A lot of things pointing in the Lions' direction, man. I like them to continue on their hot streak here. Now, do I think this one is an absolute blowout? I don't, and that's why I'm buying that point down to 6.5. I do think that they can win by a touchdown. Um, do I think they win by more than a touchdown? I don't know. Obviously, it's a possibility, but I like this a little bit better, just buying it down a little bit, getting that insurance there at minus 6.5. And the last spread pick I'm going to be looking at for this week is going to be the Raiders +6 over the Broncos. We can get this at minus 110 right now on Bet365. Now, if we look earlier in the year, we can see the Broncos did beat the Raiders 34-18, but prior to that, uh, the Raiders had won 8 straight against the Broncos, 11 of the last 13. This is a long-standing rivalry between these two, right? Division rivals, and we are at home here for the Raiders. So I do think that that plays into things here. Do I think the Raiders are going to win this one? Let me just put this out here right now. No, I don't. But I do think that they can keep this close, kind of surprise Denver here. This is a spot for Denver where they got to be really careful because that could be a trap game. The Raiders could win this one. You know what I mean? But I don't personally think they are, but I do think they're going to keep this one close. So I do like this at +6. We can check out this insight here from Outlier. We can see the Raiders are 8-3-1 against the spread in their last 12 games at home, a 67% hit rate on over those last 12 games, right? Like I said, man, this one really just boils down for me to the fact that this is a division rival, and the Broncos are coming in hot, right? They come in off of a huge win over the Falcons, 38-6. There is a potential for that letdown, right? They are on the road where they have not fared quite as well this season. We can see down here they are just 500 on the road. Um, Now the Raiders are only 2-8 on the year, 1-3 at home, so there's definitely that we got to consider. But look at the amount of money that's pouring in on Denver here, right? 94% pouring in on Denver. And I get it. I really do. If you're on the Denver side, I'm not trying to talk you off of it. I just personally know how these division rivals play, man. Like I said, I know this is a long-standing rivalry between these two. Um, I don't know that Denver sweeps them this year. If they do, I don't think that they come in here and just completely dominate them in this one on the road. So I do think that we have a close game here. I think we have a low scoring game here too. I think it's worth taking a look at the under. Me personally, I like the Raiders on the spread to cover that 6 points. I'm going to be looking at some totals now. I'm going to be looking at the Chiefs team total. I'm taking an alternate over 24.5. Now it is juiced at minus 155 there on DraftKings. But I like this one, guys. They've hit this at a 60% rate over the course of the season. Now, we dived into this a little bit earlier. We talked about that Carolina defense. Now, we can see right here that they are dead last in terms of points allowed. So we don't need to dive too much more into this one. Like I said, we already kind of talked about that, the discrepancies between this defense and this Kansas City Chiefs offense. So I like their chances of scoring here. Like I said, they've hit this at a 60% rate so far this season. And those games that they've gone under, man, they've played some tough defenses, right? Buffalo, Denver, the Chargers. Atlanta, they came just up underneath that mark, just barely. So I like our chances here of getting over this 24.5 point mark here. I think Patrick Mahomes has a good game today. We'll talk about that a little bit later when we get into the player props. This Carolina defense, I just don't think they stand a chance against this Kansas City Chief team. So I'm willing to pay the juice on this one at minus 155 for the Chiefs to hit 25 points or more. All right, we're going to dive into some player props now. The first one I'm looking at is going to be Dalton Schultz of the Texans, looking at his receiving yards over 26.5. We can find this on FanDuel for minus 113 right now. Now, if we look over here, this is a little bit concerning going up against that Tennessee Titan defense. They've been pretty stout against, receiving yards allowed, man. First in the league. Tight ends, they're sitting at fifth. Here's the thing, right? Dalton has hit over this 7 of 11 times this season. We check this insight from Outlier. We can see that he's been pretty hot in his last 8 games, hitting over this mark 7 of the last 8 times, right? So we have seen some success as far as a hit rate here. Let's go ahead and scroll down. We can also see that Houston is throwing the ball more than they're running it, 57% to 43% as far as a pass versus run rate. So we like that there. Definitely helps our chances. Let's go ahead and scroll down here and look at the targets. Stephon Diggs leading the Texans in targets. He won't be playing on injured reserve. Tank Dell is next, followed by Dalton Schultz. This ball's got to find somebody, right? Second most targeted player on the team currently right now. And against a team that, is pretty stout in the secondary, you got to like the chances for the tight end kind of going off in this one. Or at least getting up over. I mean, this total seems pretty low for me, man. Over 26.5. I like that there. We only need Dalton to get 27 yards. And he's been able to get that mark, like I said, 7 of his last 8 games. So I like his chances there going up against this Tennessee Titan defense. And then we're going to be looking at Patrick Mahomes. Like I said, we're going to be jumping back over to him when we got to the player props. Here we are looking at his passing touchdowns over 1.5. And we can get this at Bet365 for minus 145 right now. Said, man, we don't got to dive too far into it. We've talked enough about this Panther defense. They are 25th in terms of passing touchdowns against, right, on the season. Now, Patrick Mahomes has hit at a 50% rate this year. He has not been, throwing the ball. And we're going to be looking at Patrick Mahomes. Like I said, we'd be jumping back to him when we got to the player props. Here we are. We're looking at his passing touchdowns over 1.5. You can get this over there at Bet365 right now for minus 145 odds. And we don't got to talk too much about this Panther defense. We've already ragged on them enough, right? I'm sorry, Panther fans, if you are out there watching this. They are 25th, though, in terms of passing touchdowns against. Not a good spot when you're going up against the best quarterback in football, Patrick Mahomes, on the best team in football, the Kansas City Chiefs, right? At least that's how it's been for the last few years. I think the Lions are kind of giving them a little bit of a run, and I like to think that Joe Burrow has given him a little bit of a run so far this year as terms of a quarterback play. But we don't need to dive into any of that, man. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes right now and his passing touchdowns over 1.5, and we can see that he's hit this at a 50% rate so far on the season, right? So not the greatest of numbers, but I do like the fact we look at this insight from Outlier. He has hit in 4 of the last 5 versus bottom 10 defenses. And that's where we sit, obviously, with the Panthers. They are sitting Next up, we're going to be jumping back to that Colts and Lions game, looking at Matt Gay, kicker from the Indianapolis Colts, to go over 1.5 field goals made. We can find that over there at BetMGM, minus 110 odds. Now, big reason why I like this one here is this Detroit defense, right? Let's go ahead and scroll down and look at that Detroit defense going up against this Indianapolis Colt offense. Fifth in terms of scoring defense, right? Third in terms of red zone efficiency. That's the number that I really like there. Colts 18th. So, I do think that the Colts can make a little bit of noise. Like, they've played pretty decently throughout the season. We talked about that earlier. I don't think that this is a horrible team by any means whatsoever, but I do see their offense stalling out against this Detroit defense quite a bit, and giving Matt Gay plenty of opportunities to get up over that mark there in this one here. And we can see that he has hit, what, in the last 10 games now? 8 straight. So definitely a good look for him on the season. He's hitting at an 80% rate as well. We can see that in his last 9 games, he's actually hit over this mark 8 of the last 9 times. So, he's been rather consistent. We've seen him hit over this mark quite a bit. A couple threes in there as well, where he's clearing that number quite easily. So, I like Matt Gay here over 1.5 field goals made, especially at that price of minus 110. I like that one quite a bit. And next up, I'm looking at Austin Eckler of the Commanders, his rushing and receiving yards over 50.5. Find this one on FanDuel for the best price right now of minus 114. If we look at him on the season, he is hitting this at a 90% rate. 9 out of the 10 games he has played, he has hit over this mark of that 50.5 mark. He's actually averaging 67.7. So kind of crushing the number, to be honest with you. And then looking at this insight from Outlier, we can see that he has exceeded this mark in 10 of his last 12 games at home as well. Right. Let's go ahead and scroll over here and look at the Cowboys in terms of rushing and receiving yards defense. They are 31st in terms of rushing yards allowed, 18th in terms of receiving yards allowed, but specifically against running backs, they are 26th and 27th, respectively. And Eckler does get a handful of targets when it comes to the passing game, right? He is actually the fourth most targeted player on this Commander team, beating out ton of wide receivers, you know what I mean? Like, so we got Terry McLaurin first, Zach Ertz, and then Noah Brown, and then we got Austin Eckler coming in at that running back position as the fourth most targeted receiver. He's always been great out of the backfield with his hands. So I'm going to be looking at Kenneth Walker, the third of the Seahawks, looking at his receiving yards over 20.5. We can get this one over there at DraftKings minus 120. Now, look at him on the season. He's hitting this at a 75% rate in the 8 games that he has played. 6 of the 8, he has gone over this mark. And we look at this insight from Outlier, we can see that he has exceeded um, 21.5. Now I'm looking at 20.5, but we can see that he's exceeded 21.5 in 7 of his last games at home. He's actually averaging 33.6 receiving yards for an 88% hit rate in his last 8 games at home. And then looking at this Cardinal defense, they are giving up the 21st most receiving yards per game. In terms of running backs, 26th. So definitely going to have his chances here. And we scroll on down, we can see that he is also, just like Austin Eckler, he is the fourth most targeted player on this Seahawk team. So he's going to get his opportunities as well. And the last prop I'm looking at is going to be Justin Herbert of the Chargers. I'm looking at his passing yards over 254.5. I told you guys I wasn't just being a biased Bengal fan when I took the Ravens. Charger team is damn good, right? And they're going to give the Ravens a fight, man. I don't think that the Ravens are going to come in here to Los Angeles and just blow them out. And in terms of giving them a fight, man, I see them doing it through the air because Herbert's been hot. You look at him at the beginning of the year, a lot of red, right? And then we creep into these last 5 games, and he's hit over this mark 4 of the last 5 games. Damn near threw for 300 yards against my Bengals last week. He's playing phenomenal, man, and was just clutch down the stretch, right, on that last drive. Hit a couple just like big gash plays. I think they 4 plays, 80 some yards for the touchdown. Now, granted, the Cincinnati defense is nothing to write home about at all. But this isn't the Baltimore defense of the past, right? This isn't your grandfather's Baltimore defense. This isn't even your father's like Baltimore defense, man. Probably the weakest Baltimore Ravens defense I've seen in my lifetime. Especially in the secondary. We can see this here. They are dead last in terms of passing yards allowed. So Herbert's going to get his chances, right? Throwing it up against this Ravens secondary. Um, we can see that he has exceeded this mark, like I said, in 4 of his last 5 games for an 80% hit rate. That's another insight there from Outlier. Gotta love Outlier there, always providing those insights for us. But like I said, man, we're talking about a Ravens defense that is dead last in terms of passing yards allowed. Um, 24th in terms of scoring, 27th in terms of third down conversion rates. Like, not the greatest Baltimore defense. Definitely not the best one that we've seen um, Baltimore roll out there. I think Justin has his chances today, and I think he takes advantage. Man, 255 is not a lot to ask for, especially when like I said, we look at him in his last four, and he's crushing that mark, right? Not even coming close. So I like Justin Herbert in this one over 254 and a half. All right, next up, we're going to jump over here to FanDuel, man. I'm going to be looking at a parlay, a money line parlay, right? We're going to start over here with the Miami Dolphins. We'll click them first. We're going to take the Houston Texans, and then we're going to round that out with the Green Bay Packers. That's going to give us a three-leg parlay for plus 125. Now, there's a handful of things here that I like. Now, obviously, the Dolphins and the Patriots, that's another divisional game. It's going to be a battle. They always play each other tough. But the thing is the Dolphins have won 7 of the last 8 going back to 2020 against the Patriots. I do think that they pull this one out. I do think it's going to be a close one. I wouldn't take the Dolphins on the spread personally, but I do like them on the money line. But with the juice to hell and back, I definitely got to throw it into a parlay, right? Kind of the same thing with the Texans, man. I don't like the Texans on the spread. I do think that the Titans can keep this one a little bit close. Um, but I do think the Texans eke out a win, right? I don't think that they're going to lose at home to a Tennessee Titans team that really just can't get much going offensively. I do think that defensively, though, they can give Houston some trouble. So, like I said, don't like them on the spread. I like them on the money line. Minus 390, juice the hell I'm back. Got to throw it in a parlay. Rounding it out with the Green Bay Packers. And this one I was shaky on, but Green Bay's been a little shaky, right? But injuries to Purdy and Boza coming into this one, both of them will be out. So you're down your starting quarterback and your best defensive player, along with the injury battles that they've had so far this season already. I think this tips the favor into Green Bay's side, right? Especially with the Packers being at home here. So I like these three on a money line parlay, like I said, for plus 125 odds. And one more play that I'm looking at as far as parlays, I'm looking at the Texans team total, an alternate over 19 and a half, and then an alternate team total over 23 and a half for the Detroit Lions. Combine those two together, we can get that for minus 139. Now, this one feels like a pretty sure thing. Now, like I said, you never have a lock when it comes to sports betting, right? You could think something's a lock and it'll go complete 180 the opposite way. But looking at this one here, guys, the Detroit Lions over 23 and a half points so far this year. They're hitting that at an 80% rate in in the last 10 games here on the season so far, 80% rate. In their last 5, they've hit that at a 100% rate. And we've talked about this matchup already to the Lions and the Colts, and the Colts are just giving up 22 points a game. They are sitting at 19th in terms of points allowed on the season. And like I said, we kind of broke down this game already, but we'll just revisit it just a little bit here. Like I said, sixth in terms of passing yards, third in terms of rushing yards, first in terms of scoring for this Detroit Lion offense. 19th in terms of scoring defense, 26th in terms of passing defense, 28th in terms of rushing defense for this Indianapolis Colts team. So I think the Lions roll here in this one. That's why we took them on the spread. And I think that they can get 24 points or more easily in this one here against the Colts. And then looking at the Texans, their points over 19 and a half, we can see that they've hit that at a 73% rate on the season, 8 of the 11 games played so far. And then 2 of those 3 that they came under were losses, right? A blowout to the Vikings, who has been a good team so far this season. And then a 8-point loss to the New York Jets in the middle of a good old stretch here where they have hit, like I said, 8 out of the 11 times. And we're going up against a Tennessee Titans defense that has been superb, right, when it comes to yardage. Let's go ahead and flip this over real quick. Look at the Titans defense up against this Texans offense. Now, as far as yards, they're giving up the 12th fewest rushing yards and the fewest passing yards per game. But then when you look at their scoring, they're 26th in terms of scoring allowed. So not giving up a lot of yards. They're still giving up a lot of points, though, averaging 26 points scored against them on the year. Texans are averaging 23 and a half points on the year. So I like their chances of hitting 20 points on this one against this Tennessee Titans defense. And then last up, our dog of the week, dog of the day, Los Angeles Rams. Looking at them on the money line over the Philadelphia Eagles. We can get this for plus 130. Now, the reason I like the Rams here in this one, we look over here at the Eagles, right? They've won 6 in a row, right? And it's like I said earlier, man, I hate to say a team's due for a loss, but man, it kind of looks like the Eagles are due for a loss here. And the Rams have sneakily won 4 of their last 5. I think a lot of people have forgot about the Rams because they're sitting at a 5-5 record right now, I believe. Yeah, 5-5 overall. Like I said, they've won 4 of their last 5, right? So starting the season out 4-1, they have now uh, broke into that 500 range, put themselves back in position, and they battled a ton of injuries at the beginning of the season. They're starting to get healthy, and finding, they have their weapons on the offensive side. But if we look at the injuries, we can see the Eagles are going to be out Devonta Smith with that hamstring injury. So they're losing players on their side, right? As far as playmakers, they still got Saquon Barkley and AJ Brown. Don't get me wrong, right? They still got they got some dogs over there. But as far as the dog that I like in this one, I like the Rams. I do like them here on the money line. Guys, that is going to do it here for another episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the content and found it helpful and useful. And if you did, please do not forget to smash that like button down below and hit subscribe if you have not already. And go ahead and comment your favorite underdog of the slate as well. Like I said, I'm rolling with the Rams. I think the Browns were a great pick earlier in the week, also on Thursday Night Football, man. I think a handful of people were all over that one, and that was a great call. So let me know your favorite dog on the slate. Comment that down below. Let's have a great week 12, guys. Let's bounce back and get some profit on the board, man. No more breaking even, no red. We want to see nothing but green this week. So I'll see you guys in the next video for week 13. Have a great Sunday. Best of luck out there.